Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Jerich Show. I am Javvad Malik, as always, and I do not have my cold opener prepared, so we'll just roll the intro.
Welcome to the Jerich Show, featuring your hosts, Javvad Malik and Erich Krohn. Timely topics, poorly presented.
Hey, Eric, how's it going?
What's happening, my friend? How are you today?
I'm very good. Oops, I jumped the gun on the story there.
Oh, you were a hot mess today, man. I'm the one that's suffering from like a hangover from my muscle relaxer that I took last night because my back was killing me.
So Eric, ladies and gentlemen, just spent the last 2 days in Miami. Gets back and says he's hungover because of medication.
Yeah, no, I drove there and back because I don't know if you've seen the airlines lately around here or the stories, but they are a train wreck with like American Airlines canceled like 1,000+ flights, and everybody's like, and so I'm like, I'm only like 5 hours from Miami or 4 hours from Miami if you're not along. Because if you're long, it's 12 hours.
Oh, as if I was telling you, take a left here, take the freeway, take this. Yeah. I was the visitor, man. You were the local. You were telling me, let's take this coastal route. It's very scenic. It's very nice. And then,
hey, it was a nice route. But yeah, it's actually been a year, just over a year now since the car wreck jacked up my back. But I find that just even in airplanes, but just sitting like that back and forth without being able to get up very much. I was kind of sore yesterday after a quick round trip there because basically I drove in, slept for a few hours, did my talk, and then drove back to Tampa. So it was a lot of time in a rental car, and I was kind of feeling it. So yeah, the muscle relaxers are still with me this morning though. It's quite nice actually. I'm feeling pretty chill.
wow. If you were a nicer person, I might even feel sorry for you a bit. Anyway, so the year is 2021. One of the largest cybersecurity vendors on the planet is still patching hard-coded credentials and default SSH keys. You read that right, folks. A perfect 10 out of 10 on the CVSS score. And the CVE starts 2021. Let that sink in for a second. What do you make of this, Eric?
I just don't even know what to say about this. I mean, for some like cheap Chinese import, consumer crap firewall, whatever, you kind of expect this these days. We've seen that over and over again. But this is that company called Cisco, and they've been doing this enterprise thing for a little while. And still with the hard-coded passwords and SSH keys, that's just, I mean, Cisco stuff is used by like defense contractor and like DoD and government and huge enterprise, and they have default passwords. What in the world are we fighting for, Javvad?
We fight for the user.
I mean,
no, this is I like how in this one there's this statement that luckily this vulnerability can only be exploited by establishing a telnet session to a vulnerable device and logging in with the hard-coded credentials. And then since telnet is not enabled by default on affected devices, to which I say, Amazon does not make their S3 buckets public by default either.
Right.
And see how far that gets them.
It's part of somebody's build sheet, enable telnet. Okay. And they're going through the setup process, right? I don't even know what to say. I mean, it's okay, folks. Only if you use telnet. Yeah. I don't even know, honestly, why that's even an option these days. I mean, I suppose if your SSH is broken, you enable telnet and go. I just don't even know, man. It's so rife with like stories that we've talked about 10 years ago with default passwords and crap hard-coded.
This is like they should file these under like retro vulnerabilities, like make the 80s popular again, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, but joking aside, I mean, I'm not having a go at Cisco because they're not the only company that does it. The the challenge is, like you said, Cisco is a huge company and they're everywhere. And especially since we're kicking out a bunch of like Huawei's and all the any other like foreign network kind of vendors, you can imagine there are some other foreign states trying to break into telecoms and networks and everything by some of these vendors. So I think the stakes are raised a lot. So thank you for fixing this. I hope there aren't others around.
So I'm kind of curious too, and I didn't see in the article because I just kind of skimmed what I was looking at there, but I just thought about some of the older equipment. There's still a lot of networking equipment that's floating around out there, right? It's been out there for a long time because networking equipment is just networking equipment, right? So end of life doesn't generally mean anything huge for a lot of these, like, rack switches and stuff. And so what are you going to do? Oh, it's end of life. I need to go replace all of these switches that are working perfectly fine within our environment. But then when you have something like this that pops up, this is a great way to pivot if you're inside, or to be able to start taking over network stuff if you're already inside the network. And this stuff is still floating around out there. Hell, I think I have a Cisco PoE switch out in the garage of my network rack. It's older, but the thing just works. It's great. It powers my cameras around here, PoE cameras and stuff. So these are going to be floating around there that may or may not be patched, given what they're doing. And when you have a hard-coded password, it's not like, the fixes go in and just change the password.
No.
It's, so it'll be interesting to see if this ends up getting exploited out in the wild or anything like that, if we start seeing things from it.
Yep. Interesting to see how this goes on. And also interesting, and the way vulnerability discovery, a lot of it works, people start focusing on one thing and then you see a massive spike in that vulnerability being found.
Yeah.
So I'd be surprised to see either how maybe we find a spate of Cisco vulnerabilities or a spate of hard-coded vulnerabilities in a bunch of different devices. Anyway, US bans trade with Pegasus spyware maker. So case closed.
We talked about this one when it came out before, this Pegasus malware, and this was the spyware for the phones that it was used against some people, and it's a pretty powerful Israeli-based spyware that was used, and I think it was like religious leaders and politicians, and so it was all this kind of crazy stuff. And so it's interesting to see, though, that we're sanctioning a group from Israel. That was an interesting thing to me, is that the U.S. is sanctioning an Israeli group. But the other thing that I thought about with this is I've been getting these phishing messages in my spam box. Like I go through them, I want to see what's going on. And one of the ones that I've gotten is the extortion emails. And it comes through and it says, I am a hacker. You are a victim of Pegasus. You can do, it does this, and it talks about all of the capabilities of Pegasus for real. And then says, you are my victim, pay me $1,450 or I'm dumping all of the stuff on your phone on the internet, right? And I thought, when I first saw that, I thought it was really interesting, because if somebody that doesn't know Google's Pegasus malware, they're going to see that it does all of the things that this person says in that phishing email, because it is a very powerful piece of software. And it was like a 0-click sort of thing. You didn't even have to do anything active in order to be infected. And he breaks all this down. But I've seen a few of these now that are extortionware in my inbox. And I was thinking about them, like, it's crazy that here we are, using things like this, where if they Google it, they're going to see it. It just adds to the reality. And so that's why Pegasus just keeps like coming up in my mind over and over again.
Yeah, no, that's a really really valid point that you raised, that criminals will use any news thing to add legitimacy to their attacks. And so when something's notorious like this, it becomes really difficult for people to ignore, because they get worried. They're like, this thing is real. And then everyone starts racking their brain, like, what's on my phone? What could they have taken? You know, what if that conversation was taken out of context? What if that, that was actually, that wasn't a nude I sent, that was my doctor requested that picture. It's for medical purposes only.
Yeah, the doctor said I had to be in the half bunny suit. It was it was a requirement. Yeah, whatever.
Just like these muscle relaxants I'm on. So
the schnozberries taste like schnozberries. It's sorry.
Okay. So
yeah.
There's this show. I haven't seen it, but every time I see the trailer for it, everything, I always, in my mind, I think PlayStation Men, because they have the square, the triangle, and whatever. I don't know whether that's what they are or not.
Yep.
But a crypto token collapses in apparent scam. Color me shocked. But so there was this play to earn cryptocurrency, and it started soaring, and people were playing it, and then suddenly it just the bottom fell out. And everything got wiped down to zero.
They basically just blocked trading on it and ran off with the money. I mean, what got me on this story is, I mean, cryptocurrency, and I know I'm going to sound like an ancient man or whatever. I just don't get all this fascination with cryptocurrency. There's Dogecoin that has taken off and then died out a little bit. Anybody can start any coin they want, and then folks are just jumping on it, right? Like maybe. I don't know. I just don't get this whole thing. It's like NFTs. What?
Yeah.
Like, why would I buy that? I just don't get it.
You're right. And it is kind of like an old person thing. But, when we talk about social engineering attacks, we talk about how it's really, they're trying to find an emotion they can pull on. And greed is a great emotion to pull on.
Yeah.
And then there's a second layer to it, because there's one thing to say to someone, do you want $50 million? Send me some money and I'll send it to you. That's one thing. And a lot of people are clued onto that. But people, and I read this about people in their behavior, generally people are terrible liars. So if I was to tell you that I'm 6'4", I'd be really bad at telling you that lie.
That's two of you, one standing on the other's shoulder.
Yes. But we're very good at lying to ourselves. So we're good at lying to ourselves. And once we convince ourselves of something, then we can say it with confidence, and we're more believable because we're actually not lying. We've already gone through that process of convincing ourselves of something. And that's how I see a lot of these cryptocurrencies. People fabricate this story that I'm a trader, I'm investing, it's not a scam, and I'm not looking for quick or easy money. And that's why I think people fall for these things time and time again. I do believe it's possible to make quick money in certain things in life.
I do that every Saturday night on the street corner.
I don't think there's anything as easy money.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And you're right. That's an interesting point. But things like this, where they do start to take off, like this went from almost nothing to like almost $3,000 for these things very quickly. So it's so easy to get tied up in that. Like, oh man, look, it already doubled, it tripled at 100%. Oh my God. I need to go ahead and start, dumping all the available cash I have into this thing, because it's just on this rocket ship to the sky. Right. And it's easy to get like pulled into that kind of stuff and to get suckered into it, and again, pretty much anyone can start a coin these days, it seems. And there's a coin for everything. But here's a case where, you realize it's incredibly volatile stuff, and scams are all about getting you excited. I have a real quick story, because I know you love my stories.
I do. Wait, does it start with the DOD?
No, it does not. Actually, this is a recent one. My stepbrother, he reached out to me because his girlfriend got hit with a scam, and it was through Instagram. And basically what happened is, a friend of hers reached out and started talking about, hey, we're going to invest in this thing. It's good money. And she's asking him, are you sure this is legit? Are you sure this is legit? And he's going, yeah, this is legit. Totally legit. So she Venmo'd, I think it was like $3,500.
Wow.
And turns out that this other person's Instagram account had been taken over. Okay. And I find it funny because, you know, the younger generation, he's younger than me by a bit. The younger generation, we don't just pick up the phone and go, what is going on here, dude? You know, instead, it's all through this electronic communication where a phone call saying, bro, you sure about this would have made a big difference, right? But it was interesting in the fact that not only did she lose the money or potentially lose the money, I think it was a Venmo transfer. But what happened is she got a text later from the number and it said, hey, my nephew was using my account today. I'm not sure what he did, but you have some sort of a dispute on it. Can you please block the dispute or, you know, undispute it sort of thing? And I'm like, no, don't do it. Just don't do it. Because I don't know if Venmo will actually get her the money back or if they block the account after it's too late, right? The money may have already been moved out.
Yeah.
But they blocked that account. So you got to wonder, were they trying to get it unblocked for other ones that they were trying to scam?
Yeah.
And on top of that, they started getting really aggressive. So started texting. And I believe at one point they even said, if you unblock my account, then I can send you the money back. I can't send you the money back because it's currently disputed, right? And so they played all this game, but started getting really aggressive. And it was even calling her and stuff like this. I mean, these sorts of scammers and this kind of stuff that's out there, there's big money in it. They're making money quite a bit doing these sorts of things. And they're good at their wares. I mean, yeah, this was a cryptocurrency scam, but we're seeing these things all over the place. And I keep seeing people getting hit by these scams with, you know, digital funds transfers and things like that between like Venmo. I see it all the time in some of the groups I'm in Facebook where somebody post something up for sale. Somebody says, okay, cool, I'd like that. They come back and they say, okay, here's an invoice for it. They send them the invoice and the invoice defaults over or is put in such a way that it's a friends and family PayPal transfer. You know, people don't think about it or anything like that. They're just like, okay, whatever. And they do that. Well, there's no recourse. There's no disputing a friends and family money transfer. And so boom, they're out the door with the money and people are left standing there holding the bag. So it's getting crazy out there, you know, and even in the cryptocurrency scene like this.
It is. Absolutely. So I've got another story, a final story for us today. And
great.
Now I'm thinking this is a very long story, but I still want to do it justice. So put your feet up. Now, in America, in schools, do they have like apps through which you can pay your lunch money or top up your kid's account and teachers can send through assessments or you set up like parent-teacher evenings?
They have portals and stuff. I don't know if we have an app, but we have a portal.
Okay. So similar concept. So here, like all my kids' schools, they have similar, like, you know, different systems for lunch money or for parent-teacher communications or for timetables. All that kind of stuff. They can also report minor incidents. So, like, you know, your son's, you know, fell on a knife and like that was in someone else's hand. No, but so that's it. So, the city of Stockholm,
Sweden, right?
Sweden. That's right. Well done. I was testing you.
See, I'm an American that knows there's places other than America.
In theory. But that's like you saying, oh, I know what planet Star-Lord was on in Guardians of the Galaxy when they found him. It's, you know, there are places outside, right? It doesn't mean you actually believe that they exist. Anyway, city of Stockholm, they're quite a progressive tech community, country. And in 2013, they commissioned and they set up a school app, which was to be used by every school in the city. And every parent registered and every child put through it. And it was meant to follow the child throughout their progress, throughout their schooling and everything and what have you.
This already sounds bad. The government running something that everyone's required to use for the sake of their children.
Yep.
And I haven't seen this story, folks, just so you know. I have no idea what he's leading up to here.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm not sharing it on the screen because I want to build up the tension for you. So they put that in place. Now, what is that, 8 years ago? And the app has an average rating on the App Store of 1.3. So that should tell you all you need to know. A lot of times it doesn't work. People can't get on. It's really frustrating. It's like nobody likes it. And there's no other way to go about it. And one father, his patience ran out. And he so happened. So last year, in October 2020, he's a developer by trade and CEO for a Swedish innovation consulting firm.
Is this one of those he named his kid like Select Star Drop Table? Something like that?
No. So he goes, through my frustration, I thought it would be easier if I created my own app. So he wrote to the city officials asking to see the platform's API documents. And government being government, they were slow to respond. So he just logged on and started poking around, find up Burp Suite. I don't know what it was. And within a few weeks, he was making good progress. And during that time, the Stockholm's Board of Education was hit by a massive GDPR fine for serious shortcomings in the platform. The regulator found serious flaws in the platform that exposed data of hundreds of thousands of parents, children, teachers, and in some cases, this was the exposure was basically you just type in a Google search and it will take you to the data. Yeah,
one of those very complicated ones.
Yeah. So in the weeks that followed, the father teamed up with fellow developers and parents, and they created basically an open source version of the platform that would sit on top and pull the APIs from the government.
Yeah.
But it would run on top. And it was released in February of this year, and all the code's published under open source. And it was a huge success. But the city of Stockholm was really, really vexed. So they started threatening him, saying it might be illegal. They started threatening parents who were downloading the app. They're saying, don't use it. They tried to get the police involved. And, they tried to shut him down through all sorts of ways because they're like, oh, you could be siphoning data off.
But this is just another app that's using their APIs that are published. And okay.
Yeah. And so they and actually he even improved the authentication mechanism by tying it into their ID system, bank ID, so people could log in using that, and it was quite secure, and they had family accounts, and it was and everyone's like, this is amazing, and the average rating is sort of like 4.5 of that app on the store. But the government really wanted to crack down on it, and eventually there is a happy ending. The developer they asked him to unpublish his source code and work with them in building it into the official app. So it's a fascinating story. We will put the link in the note. I mean, again, I can't do it justice, but these parents built a school app, then the city called the cops. It's really well written. You can see it's a lengthy article.
Yeah, that was probably the longest intro we've ever done to an article. I just want to point that out.
Yeah. So
no, that's interesting. So they went after him first to make his life a living hell, and then decided in the end, hey, maybe he's onto something. Let's take all this thing that people love and let's make it work better. That's nice. At least they finally did that after threatening legal action.
I know that's just the recourse of the dim-witted these days. We will sue you.
Hey, I'm American. Don't tell me these things. We know how that is. We're taught, they got rid of like home economics and taught how to hire a lawyer in high school these days. I think
it's I think it goes to show, I mean, this is a happy ending story because they weren't in America. Otherwise, I think the FBI would be knocking down someone's door for hacking into government databases or something like that.
I just like reading the names.
Yeah, I know.
Lockning Gumforman something. Dear Lord.
Your American is showing.
Yeah.
It's a school platform.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know, school platform, and maybe one of our Swedish listeners can correct us on that.
We have a Swedish listener.
I don't know.
One of the three you think is Swedish?
It could be. It could be.
Oh man.
Well,
that's a nice ending though to a story that could have been bad.
It could have been bad indeed. But you look very relaxed with your muscle relaxers.
Yeah.
Do you have any to share?
Other than I'm taking the day off, I have nothing else to share with you at this point. I just really don't care.
Oh.
I just really don't care.
And with that, thank you very much for tuning in. See you next week.